Good morning. My name is Ann Ariano, and I serve as the VP Administration on your DuPage UU Church Board of Trustees. We want to welcome everyone this morning to our open and inclusive virtual community. As Unitarian Universalists, we hold that there are many spiritual paths to truth and meaning, and pledge to support one another as we explore these paths. We are so glad that you were able to find us and join us for our live stream service today. Please check the church website at dupageuchurch.org for updates. If you search under DuPage UU Church on Facebook, you will find a number of ways to be in community with us as well. Today, your Board of Trustees would like you to invite you to come to Zoom with your board after the service. Join your Board of Trustees on Zoom the first Sunday of every month, directly after the service at 11:30 a.m. for conversation and connection. We'd love to have you join us. The Zoom link can be found on the Members tab of our website and in the church's weekly email. Also, we would love for you to join us today at noon for Science Sunday. Join with our YouTube link that appears on the church website homepage, the same link used to join this service. Next Sunday, we will again have our Zoom coffee hour. That Zoom link can be found on the Members tab of our website and in the weekly church email. There's one other announcement today from your Stewardship Committee. We build hope here. Hope for new beginnings, hope for a sense of normalcy, hope for reuniting, and hope for our congregation's future. Our Stewardship Committee would like to thank the members and friends who already have made their financial promises for the next fiscal year. More than half of you have done so. Stewardship hopes to turn over our collective promise to the Finance Committee on March 25. This is the amount that Finance will use to create next year's budget, which we will vote on in June. If you have not yet made your promise, by accessing the link to the form available in the March newsletter and on the church website homepage under Quick Links, in the next week, a steward will reach out to you to offer any assistance you might need in making your 2021-22 church year promise. Everyone's promise, regardless of amounts, counts, as everyone here counts. Remember, we build hope here together. Thank you.
Good morning. I am Steve Cooper, Director of Religious Education of this church. Our new theme this month is commitment. Commitment as a journey means sticking with it. Our UU faith invites us to become a people of commitment with 4 guideposts that are along the road. And the guideposts tell us the 4 C's. Curiosity, the commitment to asking questions. Change, the commitment to keeping an open mind. Conscious, the commitment to individual conscious and the value of each person. And compassion, the commitment to caring. These guiding commitments along the road are what give our faith its personality. As we travel the road together, we pass by these reminders of who we are as a faith and come to understand ourselves. For instance, our faith is a faith that embraces change. Instead of pronouncing an absolute truth through the ages, the message that change is to be expected in faith would probably surprise someone in another faith. They would say that change is not an expected commitment in their faith, as it is in ours. And as I think about all 4 of these commitments that we will be exploring in the Youth Religious Education program this month, it seems that change is not just one of the session topics. In truth, change, growth, and ever unfolding truth seems the through line that runs through them all. Curiosity, conscience, and compassion all require us to be open to new ideas, experiences, and feelings. That newness is always an invitation to grow. Let us now light our chalice.
As we kindle this flame, may it spark in each of us connection and commitment for this living tradition and to each other.
Please join me in the spoken and sung affirmations of this congregation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
When we think about commitment, we think first about our Unitarian Universalist commitment to asking questions and being curious. We encourage people to ask questions of wonder. We support people as they ask questions of doubt. Far from outlawing doubters and questioners, our faith places them at the center. So what's one of the ways our nonconformist faith guides us into becoming a people of commitment? It tells us, never lose your commitment to being curious. In 2016, At the Harvard Graduate School of Education graduation, Dean James Ryan shared what he called the 5 essential questions in life. He says that there are 5 truly essential questions that you should regularly ask yourself and others. If you get in the habit of asking these questions, you have a very good chance of being both successful and happy, and you will be in a great position to answer, "I did," to the bonus question at the end. So the first question is a question my kids are fond of asking, and it's one you may have heard other teenagers pose, or maybe you still pose it yourself. The question is the classic, "Wait, what?" Or, "Wait, what?" My kids would typically pose this question when I get to the point of conversation where I'm asking them to do a chore. So from their perspective, they may be hearing me say, blah, 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 and then tomorrow I'd like you to clean your room. And then at that precise moment, the question comes, "Wait, what? You want me to clean what?" "Wait, what" is actually a very effective way of asking for clarification, which is crucial to understand, and it's a question you should ask before drawing conclusions or before making a decision. In other words, before you advocate for or against it, the "wait" which precedes the "what" is also a good reminder that it pays to slow down to make sure you truly understand. The second question is, "I wonder," which can be followed by "why" or "if." So, "I wonder why," or "I wonder if." Asking "I wonder why" is the way to remain curious about the world, and asking "I wonder if" is a way to start thinking about how you might improve the world. As in, "I wonder why our schools are so segregated, and I wonder if we could change this." The third question is, "Could we at least?" And this is a question to ask that will enable you to get unstuck. It's what enables you to get past the disagreement and come to some consensus, as in, couldn't we at least all agree that we all care for the welfare of students, even if we disagree about the strategy? It's also a way to get started when you're not sure where you'll finish, as in, couldn't we at least begin by making sure that all the kids have the chance to come to school healthy and well-fed? So the fourth question is, how can I help? As a Unitarian Universalist, I would assume that you are interested in helping others. And this is one of the most humane instincts there is, the instinct to lend a hand. But how we help matters as much as that we do help. And if you ask, "How can I help?" you're asking with humility for direction, and you are recognizing that others are experts in their own lives, and that they will likely help you as much as you help them. The fifth question is, what truly matters? And you can tack on "to me" as appropriate. And this is a question that forces you to get to the heart of issues and to the heart of your own beliefs and convictions. Indeed, it's a question you might use to determine your New Year's resolutions. You might ask yourself every new year, what truly matters to me? So these are the 5 essential questions. Wait, what? Is at the root of all understanding. I wonder is at the heart of all curiosity. Could we at least is at the beginning of all progress. How can I help is at the base of all good relationships, and what really matters gets you to the heart of life. So if you ask these questions regularly, especially the last one, you'll be in a great position to answer the bonus question, which is, at the end of the day, the most important question you'll ever face. The bonus question is posed in many ways, and you've surely heard a version of it before. So according to James Ryan, the single best phrasing of this question comes in a poem by Raymond Carver called Late Fragments. And it starts with this question, which we are calling the bonus question. And it is, and did you get what you wanted out of life even so? Did you get what you wanted out of life even so? The even so part of this, to me, captures perfectly the recognition of the pain and disappointment that inevitably makes up a full life, but also the hope that life, even so, offers the possibility of joy and contentment. So, if you regularly ask, wait, what? I wonder, couldn't we at least? How can I help? And what really matters, when it comes time to ask yourself, did you get what you wanted out of life? Even so, your answer will be, I did. Please join us in singing hymn number 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In.
Our faith is a living tradition. When we learn new things, we expect our faith to change. For instance, we vote on adding new sources and new principles as well as changing them. We are committed to keeping an open mind about anything that might challenge and change our faith. So, what is one of the ways our faith guides us into becoming a people of commitment? It tells us everything changes, so be ready to never stop growing. We Unitarian Universalists expect change in our lives and our beliefs. What we believe at age 4 will change when we become 8 years old. What we believe at age 8 may well change when we become 12 years old. What we believe at age 12 may well change when we become 20 years old, which may well change when we become 40 years old, 60 years old, and 80 years old. We believe that it is part of living and growing. Our UU faith is a living tradition. It's like an ice cube. An ice cube always has hydrogen and oxygen molecules, H2O, whether it's ice, water, or steam. Pretend our commitments are like molecules: curiosity, change, conscience, and compassion. These have always been there in some form in our faith, but our understandings, our language, what we leave out, and what we include changes. Here are 4 ways our faith has changed as our understandings changed. 1. Right now, we have a change to consider, that of adding an 8th principle to our 7 principles. We are learning more and more about racism and have grown and understood racism in ways that have changed. This 8th principle, which has already been adopted by a number of congregations, tells us, we, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote, journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. 2. We changed our second source to reflect a new sensitivity to gender identity. We have learned and grown in our understanding that there are many genders, not just male and female. So we changed our language from words and deeds of prophetic women and men, which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love, to words and deeds of prophetic people, which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. 3. We added the 6th source, spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions which celebrate the sacred circle of life and instruct us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature. In 1987, before that, we didn't understand how important these earth-centered traditions were to our spiritual lives. Women who were exploring their spirituality were the ones who introduced us to this change. And 4, and if we go farther back, we see how our understandings have changed too. One of the older principles from 1961, when Unitarian Universalism was merged, said, to encourage cooperation with men of goodwill in every land. The compassion was there, but in those days, the word men was supposed to include everyone, but it really didn't. So now we use the word humankind instead of mankind. Our world has changed since then. So, we can expect all sorts of changes in our lives. Sometimes it isn't easy to change, but that's why we Unitarian Universalists are in it together. We have to help each other not only to be open and embrace change, but to help each other adjust, let go, and embrace what's new. Yes, we all change, but we are also in it together.
Unitarian Universalism is a grand vision of a world filled with peace and justice, love and joy. That vision is embodied in a few large congregations, numerous mid-sized congregations, and many, many small congregations. No matter its size, every congregation depends on each of its members. Each one of you, by your commitment of time, energy, and resources, helps make that grand vision real. Individually and together, we are Unitarian Universalists, building a world filled with peace and justice, love and joy. We will now receive your offering to help us sustain this church.
We are committed to conscience as a way to tell right from wrong. Our fifth UU principle inspires us towards the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and a society at large. Instead of turning to one person, like a king or a single wise man, for all the answers, we believe that every person has wisdom inside that needs to be listened to. The still inner voice that we call conscience is a way to guide us on our journeys. So what's one of the ways our faith guides us into becoming a people of commitment? It says, trust your inner voice and the inner voice of others to help you tell right from wrong. So thanks to many Black, Indigenous, people of color leaders, the consciences of many white, cisgendered UUs are being awakened. In particular, the consciences of white UUs are calling them to be better allies. However, we are also learning that because of white supremacy, it's not enough for white people to let themselves be guided by their consciences alone. They also need to look for guidance from people of color about what it means to be a good ally. So how can we learn? How can we lean into learning more about allyship so white supremacy can be more effectively dismantled? Well, to help us on our way, I'm going to show a video. And the creator of the video, Asante the artist, lifts up many guideposts to help you navigate this important work. But don't just stop at exploration. Push yourself to identify 3 to 5 of the guideposts shared that call to you in particular. 3 to 5 lessons or challenges that not only offer you new insight, but also point to clear changes you can make. Ultimately, this is what commitment means, moving from awareness to action, hope to impact. But before we see the video, I want to talk about a word that a lot of people get hung up on. The word privilege. So let me break it down for you. Privilege does not mean that you are rich or that you have had an easy life and everything's been handed to you and that you've never had to struggle or work hard. All it means is that there are some things in life that you will not experience or ever have to think about just because of who you are. It's kind of like those horses that have blinders on. They can see just fine, but they just don't know that there's a whole bunch of stuff going on to the sides of them. So, for example, there are currently 29 states where you can legally be fired for being gay. And there's 34 states where you can be legally fired for being trans. Now, as a straight, cis man, those are things that I don't have to ever think about. And I'm not going to be fired because I'm straight, and I'm not going to be fired because I'm cis, so it makes sense that before I can fight for the rights of others, I have to understand what rights I have and others don't. That's privilege. Listen and do your homework, but it's not possible for you to learn if you aren't willing to listen.
Hey, it's Asante, and today we're talking about allyship. A big thing to remember is that allyship isn't passive. If there's a war, your allies don't just sit there like, oh my gosh, genocide? Oh, that sucks, man. Oh, I can't. It's so hard. I don't get it. People can be so awful. I'm totally on your side. The times we live in, it's just so hard. No, they lend their troops, they lend their ships, they send supplies, they send medics, they will go in and fight for you. Allyship is not neutrality. Allyship is not, I believe in you. Good luck! Allyship is an active process that you're always working on. So here are a few steps you can take to be a better ally. First, listen and educate yourself. When people in marginalized groups tell you about harassment or hardships that they're facing because of that marginalization, believe them wholeheartedly. If you feel ignorant in some areas, feel free to ask questions, but maybe ask them to Google first. Trust me, I've asked Google some pretty weird things. It's never offended, and it always has some sort of answer. It's not anyone's responsibility to be your personal tutor on social issues, especially if you're not paying them personal tutor money. There are plenty of resources that are already out there, people who have shared their perspectives in books, articles, YouTube videos. Find the resources that have already been laid out for you. Find the people who are already talking about this stuff online. And as an ally, you should be constantly learning. There's not the Black experience or the queer experience or the experience of being a disabled person. There are so many different ways of walking through the world, being perceived by others, and living at the intersection of various identities and abilities. So even if you think you've heard everything, listen. The second thing that you can do to be a good ally is to uplift marginalized voices. Retweet them, mention them to your friends, highlight them, spotlight them, feature them, hire them, and hire them into positions of authority where they feel empowered to voice their concerns and act on them. Consult with people of color and trans people and neurodiverse people, and then pay them for their time because consulting is a job. Wherever you can, bring diverse people into the conversation. A third thing you can do as an ally is speak up. When you see injustice, when you hear someone being bigoted, call them on their BS. Yeah, it may make you uncomfortable having to point out that someone's being racist, but imagine how uncomfortable Black and brown people feel having to live with that crap every day. It can even be easier to call something out if it's not being directed at you and challenging your very existence. As an ally, you can take that burden off of someone who is already hurting. And if you remain neutral in that sort of situation, you're not an ally. You're not helping. Some people also worry about it being not their place to, for example, speak of issues of race if they're white. But speaking up about injustice isn't the same as speaking for a marginalized group. It is everyone's place to call out problematic behavior, especially since as an ally, you're in a position of privilege and have less fear of retaliation. White people who are slightly racist are more likely to listen to other white people. So as a white ally, it's on you to get your people. Go get your mans. Whose mans is this? Your relatives are likely to listen to you because they usually care about you at least a little bit, and you kind of can't avoid them. So when you're sitting around the table and your auntie acts like people can't be bisexual, call her on it. That is your role as an ally. Bring a supportive voice to the table at tables where I'm never invited to sit. Reach your communities that I don't have access to. Use your privilege to speak where other people would be silenced. Another thing you can do as an ally is to respect safe spaces. Everyone wants to come home at the end of the day. Sure, I may be up for academic debate of politics and social issues, but there are some times when I don't want to be challenged. I don't want to always have to be playing defense. Sometimes I just want to be around other like-minded people with similar experiences who get it. It's empowering, it's strengthening, it's emotionally enriching to be able to fellowship with people without judgments or pretenses or awkward questions just from being who you are. Don't take issue with people coming together around their identity, especially since if you're in the dominant culture, you probably get to do it all the time without even trying. Respect that there's Pride Month, respect that there's Black History Month, and realize that as an ally, the world is already suited to you in that respect. If you're straight and cis, you've probably never feared being threatened for expressing your gender or felt like you needed to hide your sexuality. If you're white living in a dominantly white country, you've probably always seen people who share your heritage in the history books. If you're able-bodied and neurotypical, you probably have never been stopped from entering a common space because it's inaccessible, or had to retreat from a common space because it's overwhelming. Respect the spaces and times of year where people who are usually sidelined get to take center stage. If you're an ally, you'll be fine with the fact that this is not about you, and sometimes that means politely excusing yourself from spaces meant specifically for marginalized groups. The fifth thing that you can do as an ally is to get to work. Yeah, you gotta do the work. Use your strengths, your access, your resources to help the cause. Protests can be great, but we're not all meant for marching in the streets. You can call people in the government, you can financially support community programs, you can volunteer for supportive organizations. If you're a lawyer, you can give pro bono counsel. If you're a doctor, you can get involved in a clinic. Whatever you do can probably be used to do good for marginalized communities. And if you want more ideas on quick action steps you can take, check out the video I did on the Resist Challenge a while back. Being an ally is an active process, and it's not something that you bestow upon yourself. You don't just get to say, I'm not transphobic or homophobic or racist, therefore I'm an ally. Check. We are always unlearning the prejudices we've been socialized in, and we're all problematic in our different ways. True allyship involves valuing people with experiences different from ours, learning about our privileges and natural prejudices, and working to make the world more equitable in spite of them.
So before we move on, I want to ask you 3 questions about the video. And these questions could be discussion questions for you and the people around you, or a discussion in your head. What lessons or challenges stood out for you? What changes do you want to make? And which of her suggestions made you cringe? Which made you nod? You can always rewatch the service later to see the video again or to see the questions. So for now, please join us in singing hymn number 298, Wake Now My Senses.
Compassion comes from Latin words meaning suffer with. The second UU principle invites us to justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. Compassion for others points us to our larger community. Compassion guides us to freeing others from suffering by putting our love into action. So, what's one of the ways our faith guides us into becoming a people of commitment? It tells us, commit to treating the struggles of others as your own. Join me for a mindful moment. Imagine a time when you were sad or suffering. Visualize this as a dark cloud surrounding you. Breathe in deeply imagining yourself inhaling the dark cloud into your heart. Imagine your heart has an unlimited supply of bright, warm, compassionate light, and you are breathing that light directly into the cloud. Place your hands on your heart. Imagine that the dark cloud is disappearing without a trace into the light of your heart. Circle your heart with your hands. You can deal with this sadness. Rest your hands on your heart. Imagine a time when someone in your family was sad or suffering. Visualize this as a dark cloud surrounding them. Breathe in deeply, imagining yourself inhaling the dark cloud away from this person into your heart. Imagine your heart as an unlimited supply of bright, warm, compassionate light, and you are breathing that light directly into the cloud. Place your hands on your heart. Imagine that the dark cloud is disappearing without a trace into the light of your heart. Circle your heart with your hands. You can take care of this sadness. Rest your hands on your heart. Finally, try extending your compassion out to a stranger that may be sad or suffering. Visualize this as a dark cloud surrounding them. Breathe in deeply, imagining yourself inhaling the dark cloud away from this person into your heart. Imagine your heart has an unlimited supply of bright, warm, compassionate light, and you are breathing that light directly into the cloud. Place your hands on your heart. Imagine that the dark cloud is disappearing without a trace into the light of your heart. Circle your heart with your hands. You can help with the sadness. Rest your hands on your heart. Rest in the bright, warm, compassionate light of your heart for a few moments in silence. Return slowly to this room, to your body. Carry the compassionate light with you.
The road is long, with many a winding turn that leads us to knows where, who knows where. But I'm strong enough to carry him. He ain't heavy, he's my brother. bear will get there. For I know He would not encumber me. No, He ain't heavy. He's my brother. If I'm laden all, and I'm laden with sadness that everyone's heart isn't filled with the gladness of love for one another. It's a long, long road from which there is no return. While we're on the way to there, why not share? And the Lord doesn't weigh me down at all. He ain't heavy. He's my brother. He's my brother.
Thank you, Jim. Have you ever heard of the poet Jacqueline Woodson? I read her book titled The Other Side last Sunday during the time together, and I want to read to you a short poem she wrote titled Church. On Sundays, the preacher gives everyone a chance to repent their sins. Miss Edna makes me go to church. She wears a bright hat. I wear my suit. Babies dress in lace. Girls my age, some pretty, some not pretty. Old ladies and men nodding. Miss Edna every now and then throwing her hand up in the air, saying, "Yes, Lord, and preach." I sneak a pen from my back pocket, bend down low like I dropped something. The chorus marches up behind the preacher, clapping and humming and getting ready to sing. I write the word hope on my hand. In that beautiful image at the end, Woodson reminds us that what carries us through all our commitments, even the ones that the Miss Ednas in our lives make us do, is hope. Now, I don't want to muddy the waters of our theme of commitment here, but I don't think we can spend our month exploring commitment together if we don't bring along handfuls of hope too. When we make our commitments or promises, there's no guarantee that we can follow through. But we really, really hope we can. And we work at it. And sometimes we aren't even sure we're making the right commitment or promises. And since we're dedicating a lot of time, energy, and heart space to them, we hope that they're the right ones. Our covenanted communities can help us discern. Our commitments are likely going to take some sacrifice and striving, and we don't usually call them commitments when they're easy, or things that we do without putting a lot of thought into it. but we hope they will also offer us insight, a sense of satisfaction, friendship, and even some joy and fun. So Woodson's poem reminds us that the theme of commitment in our lives is actually a multi-valued one, having many different parts and applications, and we need each other's love and support to make good on our promises. I also want to bring up another artist and visionary into our minds, and that's Peter Mayer, who wrote the words to Blue Boat Home. And I bring up this song to remind us that one of our fundamental commitments as Unitarian Universalists is to the earth we share. We commit to getting to know the land we live on intimately and respectfully, so that we are better equipped to be part of the solution to climate crisis in the months and years ahead. Please join us in singing our closing hymn, 1064, Blue Boat Home.
Standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the light of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, and the great winds urging me on. Greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
Set your course with intention, friends. We make our promises, and our promises make us. It's a journey through deep and unknown waters. Whatever your North Star, causes, people, practices, hopes, futures, dreams, or all of these arched overhead in great swaths we might call love or justice. May this, in your reading of the winds, lead you home. May your commitment beckon and steady you in fair weather, and be a port in which to dock the boat of your becoming when conditions are unfriendly. We are a fleet of the faithful, beloveds, steady as we go. And thanks to Jim, Kelly, Becky, Vera, AV crew, Scott, and Todd for bringing today's service together.